The Shark Deck.
Hello and welcome to Palace Intrigue. I am your host, Mark Francis. Harry and Meghan's Spotify podcast is over. Sources told the New York Post on Thursday that Archewell didn't produce enough content to receive the full payout of the roughly $20 million deal the couple signed in 2020. In a joint statement to the Post, Spotify and Archewell Audio have said they mutually agreed to part ways and are proud of the series we made together. Meghan is continuing to develop more content for the Archetypes audience on another platform, which explored the labels that hold women back. That was the only project the couple produced for Spotify during their 2.5-year partnership. Meghan's podcast, Archetypes, premiered in August 2022 and lasted 12 episodes. Apparently, Spotify did not feel this was worth the reported $20 million. According to one source for Variety, Harry and Markle wanted to open up their relationship. That is to say, the duo have wanted to move away from exclusive Spotify distribution to find a new home for their audio projects. Another Variety insider says Spotify expected more content from Archewell Audio, while sources for the Wall Street Journal claim that the couple hasn't met the productivity benchmarks required to receive the full payout from the deal. Podcaster and Spotify executive Bill Simmons made lots of headlines by calling Harry and Meghan effing grifters. On the latest episode of his Bill Simmons podcast, Bill hinted that there's a story to be told about a Zoom he had with Harry on podcast ideas. Per a transcript of the program, Bill said, "The effing grifters, that's the podcast we should have launched with them. I got to get drunk one night and tell the story of the Zoom I had with Harry to try and help him with a podcast idea. It's one of my best stories." Back in January, Simmons had a different rant about Harry, saying, "We've slightly cleaned up to avoid the S word. Shoot this guy to the sun. I'm so tired of this guy. What does he bring to the table? He just whines about things and keeps giving interviews. Who gives a crap? Who cares about your life? You weren't even the favorite son. I can't stand him. So tired. I'm so embarrassed I have to share Spotify with him. The guy sucks. It's embarrassing that he's on our platform. What does he do? What's your talent? Why are we listening to you? So you were born into the royal family and then you left. You live in effing Montecito and you just sell documentaries and podcasts and nobody cares what you have to say about anything unless you talk about the royal family. You just complain about them. He's got a book. What did he write a book about? Honestly, he's the worst." The initial deal with Spotify was described as a multi-year partnership with Spotify to create podcasts and shows that would tell stories through diverse voices and perspectives. The Wall Street Journal reported that the Sussexes would not get the full $20 million payout from their deal with Spotify. The New York Post seemed concerned about Harry and Meghan's finances, observing their sprawling Tuscan-style estate, bought for $14.7 million in June 2020, has a hefty mortgage. Annual property taxes alone cost $144,000, and there is staffing and maintenance on top. The bill for the couple's private security detail is believed to be about $2 million a year. They're not broke, stressed the source, but they're going to have to keep spending their money instead of banking it. Palace Intrigue will be right back.
Hey, it's Jordan Ross Myers, the man behind Twitter's notorious Lee Radswell and Don Gunvalson. I'm inviting you to join me every week for the Pretty Corrupt podcast. Along with my co-host, reality casting director Stacey Noel Connor, and disgraced entertainment TV producer Nate Safer, we deconstruct pop culture's past, present, and future and probe the dark crevices of Hollywood, taking you inside the scandals, feuds, rises, and falls of society's rich and infamous. Alongside interviews with our celebrity friends and special guest hosts, everything is fair game on the Pretty Corrupt podcast. Every Tuesday on all streaming platforms and at storicmedia.com.
An interesting sidebar to the Spotify debacle is that once again Harry and Meghan took the attention away from the crown, in this case Saturday's Trooping the Colour, which normally would easily be the lead story. The Mirror recapped, thousands of people lined the mall as the king rode on horseback, joined by the Prince of Wales and Princess Royal, all donning their military uniforms. Meanwhile, Kate shunned military outfits and travelled by carriage, despite now Colonel of the Irish Guards, although she wore a green ensemble as a nod to the regiment. She was joined by Queen Camilla, who also wore a day dress, even though she is the Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. It was all topped off with a spectacular flypast at Buckingham Palace, where about 70 aircraft from the Royal Navy, British Army and Royal Air Force took part. As usual, several important royals were invited to the balcony at Buckingham Palace to have front row seats of the display, but it was a very small turnout. The balcony photo gave us our first glimpse of the long-discussed slimmed-down monarchy, with the official photos showing a noticeable smaller group of the King and Queen, the heir William and Kate Middleton, and their 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Other royals on the balcony included Princess Anne, her husband Vice Admiral Sir Timothy Lawrence, Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, while the Duke of Kent and the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester stood off to the side, making one of the smallest groupings in recent royal history. Noticeably absent were Prince Andrew and, of course, Prince Harry. Body language expert Judy James took note of Charles' time on the horse, observing to the mirror, "Trooping the colour might have been slightly marred by the rather frisky horse that Charles seemed to be struggling with, and which meant he rarely achieved the same kind of formal mounted pose that his son and siblings achieved riding behind him to the parade ground." While William and Edward sat bolt upright on their very calm horses with right arms rigid at their sides, Charles frequently needed 2 hands on the reins and a series of pats that increased in intensity as his horse needed steering and correcting throughout the ride to the parade ground. The king seemed to be complaining again to Camilla once he arrived beside the rostrum where she was standing, meaning instead of offering a smile of pride and support, her body language suggested she was giving a rather stern-looking pep talk that involved frowning and some firm-looking head bat and nods. Kate took one glance at the conversation and turned her head away, clearly not wanting to get involved. And there you have it. If you'd like to email us, our address is thepalacintrigue@gmail.com. Please follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, or your favorite app of choice. I'm Mark Francis. My thanks to John McDermott. This is Palace Intrigue. Good times.